It's a problem we look at, but don't really see. Homeless people living on the streets of Portland. What's it like? Where do you eat, sleep? How do you survive? It's a way of life you can't understand until you experience it. And that's what I did. I left my job, my home, and family behind, and for 3 days I lived on the streets of Portland, encountering the problem firsthand. As I start this special series of reports, I want to show you some of the people most of us ignore. It's not a pretty picture. It's gray, cold, ugly. People living on the streets of Portland, sometimes by themselves, sometimes huddled together inside doorways, sometimes gathered in a line waiting for a meal. That's what I remember, the nameless faces, the tattered clothes. I was one of them. The gray feeling is hard to escape, even on a bright, sunny August morning. I wore old clothes and glasses, a greasy baseball cap. All I had was my bedroll, no food, no ID. For the next 3 days, the street would become my home. I had to learn how to survive.
No place to eat. Yeah, cafe. Where's that? Huh? Where's that at?
Across the street, go up there and make a couple of blocks.
Thank you, man.
No one recognized or questioned who I was. I called myself Bill. Photographer Ed Belmutis documented my experience, keeping his distance, taking pictures from street corners and doorways.
Really? Where you been sleeping at? Here? Oh, right in here. How many can they take in? Is it too crowded?
They got plenty of room, but you can stay 7 days.
Oh, that's it then?
I had been on the street only an hour and found myself in front of the Portland Rescue Mission. Here, the faceless people became real. There was Bob, John, and Evan, a street veteran who told me where to eat.
Is this about the best place to eat, do you think, or is there a better place? Or really? Is this where you've been eating?
Yeah.
Waiting is a way of life on the street. You walk from place to place, then wait, then move on. As noon approached, I crossed into the east side of town, destination Bologna Joe's. It's Portland's best-known homeless shelter. Most of the people gathered there keep to themselves, silently passing the time away. Some never speak. A few are willing to help. I'm new to the street and get some words of advice from Warren, who keeps a vigil outside Bologna Joe's.
Okay, and what time do they eat dinner at?
5 o'clock.
And what time should I line up at?
Well, you line up out here at 5 o'clock.
The building is dirty, but pictures don't tell the real story. Pictures can't capture the smells of cheap wine. The walls reek of urine. There's the stale body odor of people who need to bathe. Yet, Bologna Joe's is a magnet, attracting the down and out, a place offering food and shelter. I will see most of these faces at other shelters during the next 3 days. We'll all wait together in lines. We'll eat together in soup kitchens. We'll sleep beside one another. I miss the things we all take for granted, a glass of cold water, a car, clean clothes. I wonder how someone can survive this kind of life day after day. As the afternoon sun beats down, I start thinking about dinner. I'm hot, tired, and hungry. It's a humbling experience waiting for food. This is St. Francis Dining Hall at Southeast Portland. Volunteers serve dinner 6 nights a week to the hungry.
Thank you.
All types of people eat here. You'll find families, some just getting by. One family is living in a car. It's the children I remember. In many cases, it's their only meal of the day. As evening approaches, I return to Bologna Joe's. I need a place to sleep. Before you're allowed inside, you wait in line. I'm exhausted, but so are the others I'm with. Bud has been on the street for 4 months.
I lived in a mobile home park, and I could no longer pay the rent, and here I am.
I heard other stories of bad luck and bad bouts with the bottle. all have the same ending.
I lost my job down there.
After a 3-hour wait, I check in. I'm assigned a cot in the back of the room. The smell of sweat and dirty clothes is overwhelming. The room quickly fills up. Those who don't get a cot sleep on the floor. It's an August night. The heat is oppressive. I don't need a blanket. My body sticks to the plastic cot. For me, this is a new experience. For most of those sleeping here tonight, it's a way of life.
Wow, that is something. Now, you had so many stories to tell. How did you find out what to do? You had to rely on those people on the street to tell you where to go?
Well, it took at least 6 hours, Julie. The first day, you just move around asking, where can I eat? This place opens up at 4 o'clock. This shelter's opens up at 6 o'clock. You can get something to eat here. So the first day is just spent trying to learn how to cope on the street.
Were they helpful? Did you worry about your
Most
personal
people were
safety?
helpful. Most people on the streets are very helpful. And I wasn't worried about my safety. I was just a little apprehensive that I wasn't going to find out where to eat because I had no money and didn't know where to eat, and the only place I knew about was Bologna Joe's. I didn't know about all the other places that helped out. Now, tomorrow night, I try to find a job, and you'll see how you can get caught up in the cycle of homelessness. When you can't find a job, there's no place to clean up. So that's tomorrow night.
A fascinating look so far. Thank you, Jeff. Jim Bosley joins us now. He's been following the weather, and it's certainly changed today.
It certainly has. It's far different than when you were down there in August.
very
If we
sunny
had
now.
to add this rain to it, that would have really, I imagine it's miserable down there now.
Yes, it is. This
What
time of
what
year.
name did you use? You had to have a name.
Bill.
Bill. So
And my
Bill-
last name was Brickert.
Brickard.
Yes.
Okay. All right. More tomorrow.
Yes.
We're watching Panhandle tomorrow. That's something, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our special series of reports, No Place Like Home. A look at the homeless who live on the streets of Portland. And Jeff, you spent 3 days on the streets.
I did, Julie. I wore old clothes and glasses. I had no money, no food, no identification. Photographer Ed Belmutis documented the report, taking pictures from street corners and doorways. Tonight's report begins with my second day on the street.
I had spent the night at Bologna Joe's. When you're homeless, your day starts early. Wake-up call, 5:30 a.m. You have to leave the building. I hadn't slept well. It was cold and I was hungry. In an early morning procession most people never see, I follow other street people across the Burnside Bridge. Another day on the street begins. For the first time, I feel the loneliness of being homeless. The procession ends here, in a line on the outskirts of Old Town. This is the Blanchet House, one of the few places serving breakfast to the homeless. The line moves slowly. As one person finishes a meal, the next person is directed to an empty seat. The oatmeal is watery. There's some bread to go along with it. When you're hungry, you don't care how it looks. For some, this will be their only meal of the day. Others will return for lunch. I've decided to skip lunch. Today, I'm going to look for a job.
Do you have any spare change?
You need money when you're looking for work, some change for bus fare and phone calls. It's an uncomfortable feeling, asking people for money.
You folks have any spare change?
I smell. I need a shower and a shave. My clothes are filthy. I have no money, no place to clean up. After an hour of panhandling, I haven't made a dime, but I'm determined to find a job. I leave the street and walk to the state employment office. Job counselors allowed a Channel 2 news camera inside the building to take pictures, not realizing I was posing as a homeless person.
I don't know. Now, if you're interested in any jobs on this wall, you need to get one of those little pads over there and write your numbers down and go into training room 1 down the hall, and he'll see if they're still open and send you out and give you the address and everything.
It's a job that pays $4 an hour, putting wires through pieces of wood. I'm told it's against policy to use employment office phones. Outside, I beg a quarter and try to line up a job interview.
Okay.
The appointment is clear across town. Without money for bus fare, I try hitching a ride. No luck. I start walking. After traveling more than 3 miles, I finally arrive. The interview doesn't last long. I don't get the job. I've only been on the street 2 days, and already I feel trapped in a cycle. Without money or a place to stay, it's hard to find a job. It's a feeling shared by others on the street. Danny has been looking for work 3 weeks.
There's no hope. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's so darn hard to climb out of it, to get out of it, okay? Because it takes time, and you got to, you know, like if you get yourself work, you got to be able to get clean, you know, you got to be able to sleep, you got to be able to eat, you know, I mean, just the basic things. You got to be able to use the bathroom when you need it, that kind of thing. You know, if you need a telephone, you know, I mean, you got to go around with your hand out until you get some cash flow going, right?
Evening is setting in. I need a place to sleep. It's pitch black. These pictures are taken with a special infrared camera. I set up my bedroll alongside others on a loading dock of an abandoned building. My second day on the street is coming to an end. It'll be a long night.
Boy, you were on the street for 3 days. Danny was there for 3 weeks.
You'd been there 3
Knowing
weeks.
how frustrating it is. Do a lot of people feel like
Well,
he
you see
does?
the cycle that you no place to clean up, you don't have any money, so it's very hard. But there are those people who shirk responsibility, and there's some of the people we call bums, and that's what we're going to look at tomorrow night. The people who don't want the help and just want to stay on the street. We'll look at that tomorrow night.
Thanks, Jeff.
It's dark and cold at 5 in the morning. I'd spent the night outside, sleeping on the loading dock of a warehouse. These pictures are taken with a special infrared camera. Others around me huddle in old blankets and sleeping bags. Some use pieces of cardboard to keep warm. My back aches from sleeping on concrete. My third day on the street is beginning. The faces that seemed so strange at first are now familiar.
You usually eat breakfast here?
It's depressing being homeless. You feel alone and helpless. Yet some people choose this lifestyle, refusing responsibility, refusing to work. They're what most of us would call bums.
As I've often thought that perhaps, say, 50% of the people could probably get and hold down jobs. But then you run into the problem, where's a man going to stay when he gets a job?
Al Riley knows all about the homeless. For 29 years, he's run the Blanchet House in Old Town, feeding the hungry and offering work to those willing to try.
A man comes in and works here for a while, and then we help whatever he needs in getting a job, and then he can stay here till he gets on his feet, and then he leaves and somebody else comes in. And it works pretty well. We had yesterday 2 fellows go to work, a steady job.
Help is available when you're living on the streets of Portland, but some don't want help. Boxcar Charlie likes living on the street. He fends for himself.
You take some of your most intelligent people are on Skid Row. I know people with college educations and stuff, but something in their life just happened and they just don't give a damn no more, and so they take to drinking wine, living on Skid Row.
Boxcar Charlie will always be homeless. That's the way he wants it.
If I get drinking and get a hotel room, get boxed up, and then claustrophobia kind of bothered me. Not all the time, but sometimes, so I prefer to sleep outdoors. That way I'm all right.
While on the street, I saw the chronic alcoholics, people who'll never get off the street until they get off the bottle. Ray Gross works at Bologna Joe's. He deals with the problem every day.
Some of these people, they work for a few days, get enough, you know, to go out and get some alcohol or drugs, and then they're back in here again. So we are now telling them, if you are on alcohol or drugs, we're not going to find work for you. We'll give those jobs to somebody else that deserves them.
The bums, the alcoholics, are just a small part of the homeless problem. Most of those on the street wind up here for other reasons. They've lost their jobs, they've lost their families, they've lost their self-respect.
There's a lot of things that need to be done that you can't take care of when you don't have a place to, you know, to function.
Mac was on vacation in Portland when someone stole his money and clothes. He was forced to live on the street in his wheelchair.
You know, I just tilt my chair back and lean up against the wall and, you know, use the wall for a pillow.
Mac doesn't have a family. He doesn't want a handout. He just wants a job.
Give me work. Let me find some for me. Because I don't know where to look, you know. Most people want you to go to school for 4 years, you know. And I don't think have 4 years to, wait out here on the streets. Wouldn't be too good to go to school 4 years and stay here,
My life on the street started on a Monday. It ended on a Wednesday evening. After 3 days on the street, I was leaving. But you can't leave the faces. I still remember them silently walking the streets of Portland in the early morning. I see them patiently waiting in lines. Faces sitting around tables inside a shelter, eating food some people would throw out. I see them sleeping in doorways and sidewalks. You can close your eyes to the problem, but you can never forget the faces. What's it like living on the streets of Portland? No home, no place to sleep. Well, this week we've tried to answer those questions with our special series of reports, No Place Like Home. For 3 days, I lived on the streets of Portland, experiencing the problem firsthand. But are there any solutions to the problem? That's what my final report is about. There's no such thing as a typical homeless person. Some are trying hard to get off the streets. Some have lost hope. All share the loneliness of being homeless.
I got a beautiful daughter and a grandson. That don't even mean nothing. I don't know where I'm at. I just want to be where I'm at.
You sad?
Yeah.
Real sad?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Her street name is Chick, her real name, Eileen. I first met her while I was living on the street. Now, weeks later, I found her sitting in a downtown park. Eileen has spent most of her life on the street.
I'm 41 years old. I've been on it since I was 15. I've lived in the same area since I was 15 years old. How many years is that? 25 years, maybe? I've lived down here. Off and on, I go out and get me an apartment and, but I don't know. I just keep falling back in the same predicament. I just keep falling back. I don't know why.
There's no magic solution to the homeless problem. Providing shelter, food, and jobs is an overwhelming and expensive task.
If we had the money, we could have adequate facilities for the chronic mentally ill. We could have people put into a treatment center with their chronic late-stage alcoholics. We could get them into employment programs, all of that sort of thing. It's a matter of money.
Dan Steffi works for the Portland Mayor's office, helping coordinate the city's effort at solving the homeless problem. An effort that includes an ambitious 12-point plan.
And when we started doing this thing, we were trying to work with a hemorrhage, and you just got to stop the bleeding first. You have to provide a place where everybody can go inside if they want to be inside. And we are at that point now, where if you choose to be inside and in a shelter, you can find shelter space.
Portland isn't the only Northwest city with homeless people. 100 miles to the north, the city of Olympia is faced with the same problem. On a recent visit, I found 3 people living in bushes near the Washington State Capitol building. Among them, an 18-year-old girl named Kaylin.
You just hope that things get better?
Yeah.
Is that what keeps you going?
Yeah. Just
what
keep
if they
trying.
don't? What if it just keeps going on like this?
Then you try to make it fun in a way. You just keep having faith.
One way to help the homeless is to get them into a home, and that's what they're doing in Olympia. This duplex is being renovated. Most of the work is done by volunteers. It's all part of a special federally funded program that provides temporary shelter for people needing a place to stay until they can find a job.
We're trying to give them enough of a stable environment so they can help themselves, so they can find a way of making the decisions that are going to get them out of the shelter. They're going to help them get them back in the mainstream, give them enough emotional support in the sense of having good surroundings, secure surroundings, to get them, out of the shelter and on their own again.
Gary and Patricia have a 13-year-old son. They almost ended up on the street when Gary lost his job. Olympia housing officials set them up in an apartment until Gary can get back on his feet.
I don't believe in free handouts. I grew up in a family where my dad worked hard. He taught us to work hard, so I'm going to work hard. This is just a blessing. I'm using this program as a blessing. But the thing about it is I'm going to use this time that I have to make sure that when I leave here, everything's set up properly. I can do my job, take care of my family, provide for them, because I'm not going to go nowhere and I can't provide for my family.
It doesn't matter where you are. The faces of the homeless are the same whether you're in Olympia, Washington, or Portland, Oregon. It's a problem faced by almost every city and town across the country. The homeless problem won't go away by itself. Most of the solutions require tremendous resources of time, energy, and money. But can we afford to ignore the problem, to turn away from the nameless faces? The longer the problem is ignored, the worse it becomes.
Take a drink.
Get a little drink, sweetheart.
We've received a lot of response over this week's series of reports, No Place Like Home. Personally, for me, it's more than just a news story. It's an experience I can't forget. In a lot of ways, it's just too painful. And it's very frustrating because there is no magical solution to getting people off the street, making sure they have a place to sleep and enough to eat. But that doesn't mean that you can shut your eyes to the problem. After spending 3 days on the street, I went home. The others are still out there.
Jeff, I think you've given us a very personal look at the homeless. Thank you very much.
Thanks.